Hey there, everyone. It's greetings here. It's Glee Gun here again with another episode of Lore of Warcraft. Um, on our last episode, we just looked at some chronicles. We talked about what happened at the end of Warcraft 3, and also kind of how it reflects on the future that the Alliance and the humans, they or really the nation of Kultiras. They weren't really mad at the Alliance, but they did get mad at Jaina, which leads into BFA, and they separated themselves from the rest of the Alliance. On our little weird side excursions, we looked at something called the Alliance and Horde Compendium, and it was how, in using the rules from Dungeons and Dragons 3.5 edition, you could make like an RTS in the way that the old Warcraft was. So we're going to continue looking at that campaign setting. They came out with a few more source books we haven't covered, and we're just going to skim through them kind of like we've been doing. This one's called Magic and Mayhem. Don't know what it's about. I would guess magic, maybe a little mayhem. Stay a while and listen. We'll find out together. This picture looks pretty cool. It's like an empowered Tauren fighting a goblin in like a shredder kind of thing. And then the next page we have, this looks like a wildkin. This is a cloaked someone. It makes me think of a blood elf. This looks like a Kaldrai, but with her head shaved. And then we've got a dwarf in the background. Tauren, that's definitely a dwarf with some machinery. That looks more like a necromancer death knight kind of thing. An Eridar warlock in the background. Some neat stuff. And then here we have that zoomed out picture that we just saw. Okay. So it says Flame and Faith. So yes, it starts off with the first chapter talking about magic. The second one's called Prepare Yourselves. It gives us new classes. The third chapter is called Fountains of Mana. Just a little bit of new spells. So the first one is Variant Rules of Magic. The third chapter is the actual spells. Fourth one, Destiny and Reward. It looks like some magical items. Fifth one is called Temple of Boom. It looks like that's how to make more tech. And then we have a couple more appendices. So this is just continued more and more extra rules. But we got a little flavor text to start us out. Flames danced wildly in Zulajik's black eyes. The witch doctor rolled his head from the side to side, uttering sounds reminiscent of the crackling campfire before him. He shifted, and the light gleamed suddenly off the bronzed goblin skull atop the spear that lay across his knees. The skull grinned at Gimbolt's sure hammer, who gritted his teeth and stared right back. Gimbolt soon looked away, meeting the eyes of Merthis. The blood elf's lip twitched in a smile as he observed Gimbolt's discomfort. "This is foolishness," hissed the dwarf. "What is this charlatan doing? He must have had too many of those mushrooms." Gimbolt indicated the stand of blue toadstools that grew outside the witch doctor's tent. "Never trusted trolls. Never will." "Quiet," Merthis replied. "He can tell us what we need to know. I do not care how drugged he is, or how vengeful." The elf eyed the bronze goblin skull, and his lip twitched again in irritation. The dwarf gave a great sigh in a vain attempt to annoy Merthis, then took his eyes away from the blue-skinned troll. He glanced around the empty camp just for something else to look at. Tall wooden stakes marked the camp's circular boundary, each bearing a goblin skull. Some skulls still had bits of flesh remaining. Gimbolt did not know why the troll despised goblins with such vehemence. He found goblins rather amusing. In fact, he would say he liked goblins best of all. Questionable races he was now forced to abide, including blood elves. Well, at least they learned of the witch doctor's odd hatred before they entered the camp. If Zulajik had seen Ziegler, the situation might have become messy. Yet for once the goblin erred on the side of caution and had agreed to stay out of sight. The last Gimbolt had seen of Ziegler, the goblin was tinkering with his latest creation, a humanoid construct of gearwork and steam with a brown beard pasted on and silver hands painted all over. Gimbolt found it oddly flattering. "Ooh, I I contacted a spirit, mon. The troll's sudden exclamation snapped Gimbal's head around. The dwarf's eyes narrowed, noting that the fool elf was leaning closer to absorb every word. The troll spoke on. They'll show you the way. They'll tell me, and then I guide you. To the demon well? Asked Merithus, his eagerness palpable. Not for the first time, Gimbal questioned his choice of traveling companions. Yeah, mon. To the demon well. Zulajik was still in a trance as he stood and looked to the south. If you... Aye! The troll's speech was halted by a familiar high-pitched scream. Ziggler's latest creation, chugging noisily and blasting steam, came careening down the slope and smashed aside two of the gruesome stakes. Atop the clockwork mechanism's head sat Ziggler himself, a maniacal grin stretching his face. Blue mushrooms protruded from his belt pouch. Zulajik screeched, Why are you bringing the goblin here? Merithus leapt to his feet. The troll's eyes were clear now, and he was shaking with rage. He pointed his quivering spear at Merithus. I kill you! No, Zulajik, Merithus was cut off as Ziggler's creation slammed into him from behind. The blood elf hit the dirt, and the clockwork dwarf continued marching, piston-driven legs pounding against Merithus's ribs, spine, and head. Ziggler cackled as the troll's spear caromed off his creation. Pulling a lever, he piloted the gadget towards Zulajik's tent, where the creation tore down the entire structure. A vicious scream tore from the witch doctor's throat as he watched the gnome ride the clockwork dwarf into the night, the tent's remains dragging behind. The gnome should have been goblin. Gimbal, who had stood open-mouthed during this entire scene, came to his senses. He sprinted after Ziggler, after a quick examination of his options, making a rude gesture at the troll as he passed. Merithus lifted his bruised face from the dirt. Zulajik scowled, drawing a bone knife from his belt. I'm with you, said the blood elf. Let's kill them both. So that looks kind of like what we just saw. We see a goblin careening by on a clockwork gnome. Dwarf, the dwarf in the background, a troll witch doctor, a blood elf. Seems like what we just saw, and this is the introduction. So, again, this is a core source book. It focuses on rules, game variants. Yeah. They talk about spell slots versus mana points. And they're just, it looks like they're just justifying their decision to use spell slots instead. Although now in current Dungeons and Dragons, there's an alternate variant rule you can use to have mana points. What's the flight plan? Yeah, they're just telling you what the chapters are going to be. Okay, cool. Oh, we've got another flavor text already. Cool. So it looks like we'll have a few in this book. Welcome, my son. Come in. Bask in the glory of the light. The priest smiled at the penitent and moved aside to let the younger man enter. Varius returned the smile, ducked his head, and moved into the chapel. A massive stained glass window depicting a knight of the silver hand battling a demon dominated the small shrine. The paladin, depicted, looked pious and fierce, but Varius would put his gold on the demon. I am Father Rammel, said the priest, still smiling through his short gray beard. His clear blue eyes glittered with kindness. Is there anything in particular I can do for you, my son? Or have you come simply to pay your respects? Varius removed his heavy leather gloves and slapped them against his hand. He glanced around the empty pews. Attendance looks rather slim today, Father. Yes, there have been fewer and fewer faithful of late. One would think that our triumph of the foul demons would bring more to our doorstep, but in fact it seems to be doing just the opposite. I cannot understand it. Varius could. He quickly turned his face away so that the priest would not see the red that suddenly flashed from his eyes. As cunning as his spells were, his true nature sometimes bled through. Actually, Father, he said, pretending to examine the window, there is something I would like. They tell me that you are in charge of recommending new warriors for inclusion in the Order of the Knights of the Silver Hand. I would like such a recommendation. The smile faded from Father Rammel's face for the briefest of moments. But my son, I do not even know your name. I have never seen you before. How am I to know if you are a man who truly walks in the light? Though I do not doubt your sincerity, I need at least several months before. The old man's words trailed off as Various turned, his eyes burning now with their true nature revealed. A pair of orange-red orbs with fire surrounding slit pupils. The eyes caught Father Ramel. The eyes held the priest fast and subsumed him. The eyes, the demonic eyes, blasted all thought from the old man's mind. No, human, Various spat the word. I think you have known me for long enough to make your judgment, haven't you? The priest nodded mechanically. Now you will go to your superiors and tell them. The door to the inner sanctum opened, and a young elven woman backed into the chapel, leading a cleaning cart. Father, I have finished with... She gasped when she saw Various. He blinked, his eyes returning to their human guise. Father Ramel groaned and wavered. Various turned and smiled at the newcomer. Greetings. I was speaking with Father Ramel about joining the Paladin Order. Liar! The woman shouted. Her voice thundered throughout the room. She drew an amulet from her robes and thrust it skyward. It pulsed with a red-gold glow. I know you for what you are, demon! Even as she spoke, Various felt his disguise melting away, his form lengthening, magnifying, until he filled half the small chapel. His massive slug-like body pressed against the door, but Various laughed, undaunted. And what of it, mortal? Surely you did not seek to save this? Gargantuan muscles rippled as the pit lord flicked Father Ramel against a wall. Or would have if his arm had not been blasted back. Sorry, guys. I'm getting a little congested. Hopefully it's just allergies, but I fear the worst. A cold. Various turned in shocked to see the priest enveloped by a blue glow. You have made a mistake, creature, shouted Ramel. His beard shortened until it sank into his face, his skin smoothed and chained, his ears lengthened and pointed. Golden hair tumbled to his shoulders, his priestly garment fell away, revealing a robe of red and black. But we are glad of it, smirked the woman, reaching for her belt, for it has been too long since we feasted on your kind. Various roared as the blood elves fell upon him. Feasted? Since when do the blood elves eat demons, unless it's, I guess, figurative? There's that pit lord with the something in his hand, the priest. It's called Flame and Faith. Okay, so let's just kind of skim what it's talking about here. There's a conflict between the arcane and the divine. This is something I think that goes away. I wouldn't exactly call it a conflict because the light and the dark are different, but I don't believe arcane magic is necessarily the arm of the dark. I don't even think that fell magic is. I think there's something else. Dark magic, which is the void. So this gets retconned with the void. Arcane is its own, more of a neutral thing. It says magic is the gift of the Titans to the world. It says a gift that comes with the highest price. I guess the price would be that it was a lure to the Burning Legion, but again, that has been retconned. So this is no longer canon because of what happens. We have that well, the Well of Eternity, that eventually corrupted the Kaldorei. That's true. The Burning Legion ravaged the land. They're just recapping how it spread throughout the world. The Draenor, they should have arcane magic as well, because all should. Spellcasters follow the 4 laws. Magic is powerful. Magic is corrupting. Nah, that gets scratched. Magic is an addiction. Scratched. Magic attracts the twisting nether like flies to honey. Scratched. All of that is really scratched. And they created a rule called arcane corruption. So it gives you a chance for a person to be it. If you wanted to have a chance for your arcane people But again, I would scratch that rule because that's not a part of World of Warcraft. Okay, so this is all just about this invariant rule, what happens to the different schools of magic, the schools from Dungeons and Dragons, which they don't have a place. Actually, if you do that achievement in Dalaran, I don't remember which Dalaran, if it's I think it's the new one, the Legion one, but you can find all the books that talks about it, and actually, it is all of these. There's books for all of the abjuration, conjuration, divination, enchantment, evocation, all the main Dungeons and Dragons. So secretly at its core, arcane magic is based on the same things. And later on, we will I don't know if we're actually going to ever, we might read that stuff, those books, maybe, but they're a pain. You got to camp them. So for me to tape reading them, I don't know. Seems like a bit of much when we could just look up the text on. I do have that achievement on my main achievement hunting character, but I don't know. It took me a few days of camping the different books. Okay. We also have the continued evolution, although really it doesn't seem like we've evolved much from the main source book of Divine Magic. The Eternals. I think the Eternals are no longer what they're called, although I do think the Eternals might be what you call the people in Shadowlands. I can't remember. So they come back to that idea, but that's not what they call divine people. They're never called Eternals in anything else we've read. And here they're tying, just because Dungeons and Dragons does, the druidic magic and shaman magic into divine magic, but that gets further separated to its own sphere once they are not slavishly tied to Dungeons and Dragons. The divine spellcasters must go through ordeals, I guess, sure, and tests of faith. So this just seems like different rules you could do for that in this campaign, but that's not, I mean, sure, like story-wise, you could always say that anyone that has a faith-based power would have to go through ordeals and tests of faith. And some of them, in the stories that we've read, are based, have these things becoming a member of the Order of the Silver Hand, and the one we just read where they lose their faith in the Blood Elves. But as far as gameplay mechanisms and mechanics, that doesn't really happen. Fel energy, I like that we're talking about fel energy. Let's talk a little bit about fel poison, fel offerings. Rune magic, this is new to this book. So what they're doing, I think, is tapping back into Warcraft 2, the spells that Ogre Magi can have, and then some of the other things where there's the runes around Quel'Thalas and stuff like that. So they're trying to talk about these different runes, and runes do exist in World of Warcraft, and actually, if you think about it, mages have runes, like runes of glyphs of power, runes of power underneath them. So this is just how to put that in Dungeons and Dragons, but it's interesting and there is some in Warcraft 3, so this is just a weird little aside, in my opinion, of spending a couple pages talking about how to create the runes and stuff, but whatever, it's fine. All right, so that was that first chapter done. Let's read some more flavor text here. I can't believe we managed to get out a ratchet without an inspection. Jokas Iron Gear reached into his tool-laden pack and drew out a bottle wrapped in thick layers of cotton. I've been saving this bottle of Shady Rest Ale since we left Daramore. Time to celebrate. Silence, goblin, hissed Blackhawk. The warden's eyes pulsed with a green fire as she scanned the shadows of the Zeppelin's cargo hold. Her hands snapped from beneath the folds of her cloak, and a trio of knives flashed through the air. A chittering hiss erupted from a wooden crate, Blackhawk's blades buried hilt deep in its side. We've been misled about the nature of our cargo, said the warden. Torin, open the crate. Ashar stepped forward and raised his axe in a mighty stroke. Blood and ichor mixed with splinters on the deck as the crate dashed apart, revealing the corpse of a carrion beetle. The spirit walker turned back to his companions. That is not spices, he growled. Another piece of ghost hoof wisdom, said Jokas. Hey, I wonder if this means that your passenger is not who he claimed, came a voice from the doorway. Yes, I believe it would. The merchant pointed a carved totem toward Blackhawk. I wouldn't advise any rash actions, Keldarai. My minions above have your crew quite under control, which leaves you for me. I don't know actually what accent I should be doing there. The totem vanished and the merchant threw back his hood. A greasy mane of green hair spilled over sharp features and beady yellow eyes. It should have been a troll. A troll, said Jokas. A smart, skinny troll with glowing hands. A witch doctor, said Ashar. Touching the kodo claw hanging around his neck, the spirit walker shoved Jokas behind a crate and stepped in the path of the bolts of eldritch energy that lanced from the troll's fingertips. You have no respect for the spirit you draw upon, roared the Tauren. As Ashar rushed forward, the totem flashed back into existence behind the witch doctor and exploded in a shower of sparks. The spirit walker stumbled, sparks dancing across his horns. He fell to one knee, dazed. Your mulish dedication to the spirits of your ancestors has blunted your skills, warrior. Tossing another magical bolt down the length of the cargo hold, the troll shouted, Come out, little goblin! The witch doctor dragged the claw down the Tauren's muzzle. The thing I like best about goblins is the greasy stain they leave behind when I roast them. But you should provide ample entertainment during the journey. Perhaps I'll see what it takes to make your heart burst. Shadows gathered behind the witch doctor and shaped themselves into Blackhawk. She stepped forward and skewered the troll with her moon sword in one smooth motion. Perhaps not, she said as the troll collapsed at her feet. Your condition, Tauren? Blackhawk asked as she returned Ashar's fallen axe to the spirit walker. I am shamed, but I will live, Tauren said as he struggled to his feet. Don't make vows you can't keep, Jokas shouted from the back of the hold. Ashar and Blackhawk found him kneeling in front of a panel, a wrench in one hand and a hammer in the other. A fog of steam poured out from a severed rubber hose. Looks like one of those magic bolts found the compressor's subassembly. Enough engineer tongue, said Ashar. First we dump this cargo into the sea. There will be time to fix the machine while we look for new passengers. I think I'll fix this now, said Jokas, tugging at a bolt, or else the gas bag will deflate and we're all going swimming. The goblin gestured over his shoulder with his wrench. You two might want to grab whatever water's on board and head up top. We need to keep the phlogiston tanks cool or they'll melt the bladders for good. As he followed Blackhawk toward the upper decks, Ashar shook his head. It is like my father always said. The air belongs to birds, tinkers, and the foolish. Alright, so chapter 2 is called Prepare Yourselves, but if you look, that looks like a warden skewering the troll. Gross. And I think we're getting a couple new classes now. This also signifies that, hey, this one's coming out after the Frozen Throne. Alright, so there's some new feats. You can get an additional familiar. For some reason you wanted 2. Avoid technological mishap, capture spell, consummate machinist, dismissible spell, fell infusion, fork spell, greater link spell. I'm just looking, and if I'll stop if I see one that we would notice from World of Warcraft. Greater spell specialization, Haitian spell, link spell, spell specialization, technological weaponry, transcendent spell, undead supremacy. So nothing new, just things that would allow you to play a higher level, it looks like. New core and prestige classes. So we can now be a rune master. What the heck is that? Dwarves, Tauren. So it looks like they're covering themselves in runes. That's cool. So with this new rune magic, okay, you know what? There are no classes that do this, but I wonder if this is like the genesis of the inscription profession. With all the tattoos and rune senses. Maybe. And you get all this runes per day you can use. They also have unarmed strike and flurry of blows. So they're like a mixture between monks. They're like inscription monks. Interesting. But no, that does not appear. Bombardier, look at that little turkey. Bombardier. Bomber. Say, we had some of these goblin sapping yeah, they're just, if you wanted to make a class that was basically a sapper, to me that doesn't seem fun, but sure. The engineer itself, this is more of a profession. They have tinkers, but again, this is a prestige class. Maybe not. So they're just making, you already have the tinker. What do you need the engineer for? I don't know. If you wanted to really focus on the crafting, that does become a profession. So these things will become professions. Raven one. It's a caster with a D4. They don't even do that anymore. They're evil. Yeah. It says they seek power from the deep well of death, so they're kind of like necromancers, but we already have necromancers. Bone Scythe, minions. Trying to see, like, these just seem too far off. Armors of Bone and Shadow. They have arcane magic plus necromancer magic. I just don't understand why. What's the significant difference between this and a necromancer? Still a caster. It's just a tweak. Shadow Hunter, that is something that you have from Warcraft 3. At least that came out of the game, because these rest don't even seem, I don't remember seeing them. Shadow Hunter's cool though. That's, you get the lowest spirits, so you get some casting from that. So that's cool. Sorry guys, this is a little bit of a longer episode than the Chronicles, so I can't just power through the congestion. Spirit Walker, this is something that gets referenced and is talked about. I would say they're kind of like druids. They're basically druids, and it's kind of like a druid spec, but not really. They have a spirit companion. From a lore perspective, it makes sense, but these are less cool to play. I feel like this is almost unnecessary. They have, it's kind of like, yeah, like they can go in the Emerald Dream, so it's kind of like a Emerald Dream Druid. Steam Warrior, I freaking love that. I really wish you could really have a class that was like that. That was just not a mecha gnome, which is just basically a gnome with a cosmetic skin, but a real tech-based class. That would be cool. Maybe in one of the future expansions they'll get like a less fantasy, more steampunk kind of thing going on. That would be cool. And the Warden, that does come from the game, so I think that's super cool that we're actually going to get to have a Warden. They have Slicing Torrent. You get some spells, which makes sense. And Witch Doctor, this is actually more of a Diablo thing. But yeah, they totally exist. But what they do is end up just, Witch Doctors are basically shamans. They get the shaman skill set. They don't, but I do think Witch Doctor would be a cool class in World of Warcraft also. But I guess the limitation would be like who would do it other than trolls. So I think they try to veer away from that. Same thing like Robo Warrior, who would do it other than gnomes but you just make the Drakthir, who can be Evoker and no one else. You have Demon Hunters, Blood Elves, and Night Elves, so you could still do it, and it would be fine. Bombay Brew. All right, so we got some more flavor text as we. Seems like each chapter is going to get one. Rain began to fall. Excellent. Zajtal paused long enough to stretch, allowing the moisture to trickle between his scales. Just because he could survive outside the ocean, oh, this is the Naga race that they introduced last time, did not mean that he liked to do so. He savored the sensation for a moment before continuing on, his snake-like tail writhing along the ground as he slithered up the hill. As Zajtal neared the crest of the hill, he slowed and clutched his massive trident. He lowered his torso to the ground, inched forward, and peered over the edge. Yes, there was the Alliance encampment. The fires were nothing but faint orange embers, even now being extinguished by the rain. The pines around the small cluster of tents shook with the drops and shed water. Nothing stirred, yet there must be a sentry. Surely Zajtal was not lucky enough to come upon a sleeping lookout. There he was, cloaked but obviously a Kaldarai. The Naga could not make out the elf's features through the rain and dark, but he could imagine them well enough. The face a delicate indigo, with smooth features and elegant pointed ears, handsome. The sort of face that Naga women found attractive. Zajtal would enjoy disfiguring that beautiful face. The sentry stood against a tree, huddled in the rain. The fool Kaldarai had grown weak. This one could not even face the elements without shivering and drawing his dark cloak about himself. Zajtal would prove that the Naga had grown strong. He lifted his left hand and its fingers danced in a complex pattern. Words of magic poured from his mouth. Nothing happened. Zajtal was momentarily taken aback. The sentry had resisted his spell. Perhaps the Kaldarai had not fallen as far as he thought. Alaminar! The sentry made a powerful gesture, and bright light flashed, illuminating Zajtal's hunkering form. The Kaldarai threw back his hood and stared at the intruder. Zajtal was surprised to see that it was a female. He suppressed the momentary sensation of fear he felt from seeing that feminine face, so akin to those of his own cruel mistresses. He was Naga. He would not face this threat, crouched on the ground like some grass snake. Rearing himself up, he hissed at the woman. Naga, she said with a smile, the words carrying across the distance despite her quiet tone. You are far from your home. As you are, wench. Galindara. Nothing visible happened, but the camp was shrouded in an aura of silence. Now he could best this silly woman without alerting her allies. She laughed, continuing forward. Zajtal again felt a surge of fear which angered him more than anything else. He growled, Snake, you made a mistake coming to my camp. I do not allow animals in on my watch. Kirmisar! She flung out a hand and 3 whirling yellow stars flashed forth and slammed into Zajtal, slicing deep into his flesh before vanishing. A simple spell, but it stung. Thank you, woman, was his guttural, hissing reply. I was itchy there. Galmak! He thrust his trident forward, and a massive wave 10 feet high blasted forward. It slammed into the sentry and continued on, smashing apart several trees before sinking into the ground. There was silence save for the falling rain. A trail of broken branches and gouged earth marked the wave's path. There was no sign of the Kaldarai. Zajtal grinned. He slithered forward to where the woman's body had fallen. Indeed, there she lay, broken and bloody on the ground. The Naga was pleased to see that she still breathed. She began, but then coughed up a gout of blood. Do you know, rumbled Zajtal, I thought you were a man. When I first saw you, I thought I would enjoy tearing your face from your skull. She made no reply. Her eyes were closed, and rainwater ran in rivulets down her face. Now, he said, reaching forward, I think I shall enjoy it far more. There's a picture of that. I like how the pictures are tied to the flavor text now. Chapter 3 is Fountains of Mana. And, oh, okay, so there are different types of runes. So they've made a whole rune system. There is the Awareness family, the Beast family, and they seem to be buffs. The Healing family, so they are almost like glyphs, inscription. The Motion family, movement. The Restoration family, that's like status effect. Shielding family, more like magic than armor, I guess. Because, no, okay, defense. The Striking family. And then these are the different runes. We have a glyph of mending. I'm not a rune expert. So maybe glyph of opening, glyph of resurrection, glyph of safe file, mark of awareness, greater mark of awareness, lesser mark, ultimate mark of awareness, mark of evasion, mark of flying, mark of freedom, mark of healing, greater, lesser, minor, superior, ultimate marks of healing, mark of motion, mark of purification, mark of regeneration, mark of restoration, and greater, lesser marks of that, mark of sensing, and greater, mark of energy shielding. Oh, energy mark of shielding, greater mark of shielding, lesser. Here's a picture of a dwarf, and I don't know what that's supposed to be. Elf. Ew, she looks weird. Mind mark of mind shielding, minor mark, superior, ultimate mark of shielding, mark of speed, lesser, aligned mark of aligned striking. Basically, it just makes like you can make your damage be like chaotic, evil, good, lawful. Mark of energy, energy mark of striking, greater hardened mark of striking, hardened mark, kind mark of striking. Oh, it's non-lethal, so if you want your claws to knock people out. Magic mark, sonic mark, sure, ultimate, vampiric, mark of the badger, mark of the basilisk, mark of the beast, mark of the cat. Just kind of looking like you get skill checks, yeah. So these are just weird. Mark of the dragon, you get a breath weapon. That's cool. Mark of the golem, and actually, I do think there's like some items that give you a flame breath. Mark of the imp, mark of the snake, mark of the tiger, mark of the werewolf. Yeah, so I don't know. There might be some glyphs that simulate some of these effects. Mark of vigor, vision, lesser true, dispelling sigils now of dispelling, sigil of healing, greater superior, ultimate, sigil of purification, shielding, ultimate, sigil shielding, sigil of transportation, greater, lesser, ultimate. All right, the new spells they're introducing to this setting. Absorb mana, and we'll just stop if we see any that we recognize. Aerial shackles, avatar. That's kind of like the dwarf thing. There's like a warrior. There's a warrior mode. You can kind of go to avatar. Berserker strength, mask, berserker, big bad voodoo. That's from Diablo, and it probably is in Warcraft. Black arrow, blazing column. It's kind of like flame strike. Breath of fire. There's a dragon breath move. Oh, that's more like the looks like a Pandaron one. Brilliance aura. So that's arcane intellect. Burrow, call of the spirits. Counterspell is one. Greater lesser no. Cripple is one, but not mass. Crushing wave. Cyclone is one. Dark conversion and mass. Dark metamorphosis. I'm pretty sure is one. Dark sacrifice. Don't know. Death and Decay, yep. Devotion Aura, yes. I wonder if these came from Warcraft 3. Dimension Blink, Divine Grace. Blink is one. Divine Grace, I don't know. Drunken Haze. I don't know. Forked Lightning, I don't think so. Frost Arrow. Frost Bolt, that's Diablo. Healing Light, Greater Lesser, Hooks of Binding, Impale, maybe. Carrion Beetle, that's actually from Warcraft 3, but I don't know that you can summon any beetles in World of Warcraft. Inner Fire, yes, I feel like that's a priest thing. Kaboom, no. That's cool though. Lightning Monsoon, Magic Defense, Mana Shield, Mass Revival, yes. Mind Rot, Mysterious Purple Blast. Orb of Annihilation, that's like Dungeons and Dragons, I think. Owl Scout, kind of. Parasite, no. Pass Unknown. Subject is it? No. Phase Shift, Profane Aura, that's like where you just walk into the aura and then like everyone's just using cuss words. Call undead mass rejuvenation, restore critical damage, and mass restore light damage. Mass restore. What does this mean? Restore light damage. Oh, you're healing objects. I see. Restore minor, moderate. So if you wanted to heal structures or like machines, serious. Searing arrows, sentry ward. That is in Warcraft 3. Shadow Strike? Maybe. It sounds familiar. Drawing a blank. Siphon Life? Yeah. Siphon Mana? Kind of. I don't know. Maybe. Soul Preservation? No. Spirit Link? Kind of. If not in the name, in spirit, yes. Spirit Touch? No. Stitch, Earth Storm, Firestorm, yes. Summon Undead, Strike is the Wind. Lots of Summon Undeads. That's more of a D&D thing. This is what happens when you summon them. There's higher and higher levels. Summon Undead. Summon Nature's Ally. A little few extra you could summon with that. Tentacle Lash. I don't know. Greater Thorn Shield. There is kind of a thorn type of shield, I think, that you could have as a druid, maybe. Thunder Lizard Rush. That is... Who can cast that? That's what's his name's ultimate move. But no, that's not in WoW. Troll Flesh. True Shot Aura. Yeah, that's a hunter power and Warcraft 3. Vampiric Aura. So they're adding in some of the things I missed and adding some things that are just D&D things. Vampiric Swarm. That's kind of cool. Vengeance. That's from Warcraft 3, but I don't know that it goes past that. Voodoo Spirits, War Drums. You can build those as a leather worker. Okay, cool. So now we're on to more flavor text. Then you have 1 minute to open that door. If you fail, I want time to enjoy killing you myself. Sorry, guys. Isak drew thieves' tools from his pockets and tugged his gloves on tighter. Magic gloves, he muttered nervously. Magic gloves of celerity. Celerity, said Bohine, opening the pouch around his neck. The ring inside dropped onto his calloused palm. The Tauren watched the cold moonlight glint off its silver strands for a moment. Then he slipped it over the chipped tip of one horn. From his pack he brought out a glass vial filled with glowing blue-green liquid. Bohine had won the potion in Bluefen on his first Elder Quest, and he had carried it unused, unneeded for many years. If he didn't use it tonight, there would be no tomorrow. Thumbing open the stopper, he tipped the vial to his muzzle and drank. The Tauren felt the warmth of magical strength flowing into his limbs as Isak shouted, I've got the lock open, but there are traps, magic traps! The goblin dug frantically in his pack. I just need to find that amulet. Bohine stepped to the edge of the cliff and looked over. Roiling masses of the undead swarmed at the base of the mesa. An abomination halfway up the rock face reached for a new grip, but found instead one of the wards Bohine had cast earlier. The explosion ripped open the abomination's undead flesh and sent it tumbling back into the darkness. Skeletons to either side continued their climb undeterred. Bohine turned back to the goblin. When I return, that door will be open. Isak clutched the bronze disc around his neck and sneezed as he waved away a smoky cloud jetting up from the floor. Poison gas. She really didn't want anyone opening this door. Just a few more seconds. Nodding the leather thong's binding weapon to Baldric, Bohine muttered the whistling elven word that released the spells bound into his horn ring. Trusting to the magic, he took a step over the edge and toppled forward, only to plant himself firmly against the vertical face of the cliff. Another step forward, and he stood sideways on the side of the mesa, 100 feet above the ground. The hordes of undead far below were a swarm on the distant ground that had become a wall to behind. And the skeletons, skittering forward, pressed themselves tightly to the cliff that was now his floor. Reaching over his shoulder, Bohine shook the wrappings from his weapon. They fell away, pulled at an odd angle by gravity he could not feel. Freed of its rough scabbard, the Tauren's ancient axe roared with rage as the undead approached. Bohine joined his weapon's cry as he moved from one enemy to the next, chopping off bony limbs and knocking ghouls from the rocks. As he pushed back wave after wave of the enemy, the war chants of his ancestors sang in his mind. For seconds that felt like hours, he let himself swim in the glorious tides of battle. Then as he felt his ring's magic wane, he rushed up the face of the cliff and leapt back onto the top. "The vault's open!" cried Isak. "I've got it!" Behind ripped the bundle from the goblin's hands and tore away the leather wrappings. The smell of decay and death bloomed from the book inside. The Tauren felt the powerful magics bound into the tome reach out to shroud the moon in dark clouds. This was it. This was what they'd been looking for. Turning to the skeletons and ghouls clambering over the edge behind, held the book high and cried, "In the name of Queen Azara and with the power of this book, I command death itself. Back!" I just can't see a necromantic type of Tauren. Alright, and that shows him standing on the wall fighting, which is also cool. Chapter 4, Destiny and Reward. This is the one we talked about that's going to have new armor and shield weapons. I guess some abilities and body slots. They're saying Furbolg, Orc, and Penryn can attach items called jaw on their jaw. Interesting. Goblins can wear a magic earring, so an extra magic ring. Naga can wear extra rings and hands for their extra arms. Tauren can have a nose ring and a horn ring. That's not true in game, but that would be cool. All right. There's the Arcane Shield of Karis. I think Karis was it says legendary human warrior. Cool tower shield. The Blade Bane armor. We'll stop if we recognize anything. This is not a unique. Enchanted Shield of Vethtalia, a fighting sorceress. Frostworm Skull Shield. It's a unique shield from a Frostworm skull. Shield of Honor is common among the generals of Lordran. Weapons. These are weapon affixes. Bloodlust, blow through. Capability, crippling, crushing, death. Destruction, devotion, dispelling, enfeeblement, entangling, fast reloading. Fear, friendly, frost nova. Frugal. Make sure you keep your ammo. Functionality, healing, heroic, howling. Yeah, this is more of a D&D thing. Or a Diablo 2 kind of thing. Like, they just don't do that anymore. Knockback, life stealing, mana burn, maximize, multiple targeting, piercing. It doesn't fit in World of Warcraft. Prescience, reloading. Although maybe some of these you can get affixes on the random gear you find. But not like this. Not with these special traits. Roaring, self-loading, shockwave. Shrinking, spike, stone, transmutation, unholy frenzy, vermin, warding. Specific weapons. There's an assassin's blade for horde assassins. Black Gore Totem. It says the big heavy totem, healing totem. It's like a tank totem. Ferocious Claws of Attack. Mauling Claws of Attack, so upping the things from Warcraft 3. Savage Claws of Attack. Demon Hunter Warblades. Eye Gouger Horns. You wear it on a Tauren's head. Fangs of Rending. Remember those other things were fangs. Frost Guard. It's just some ice sword. Goreblood horns, more Tauren type horns. Ironwood Branch, a big brand. Kellen's Dagger of Escape. This is a rogue named Kellen, but I wish they would say the race. A Maul of Strength. Razor Teeth. You put the teeth in your mouth. Yeah, look at that. Slavering Jaws, Searing Blades, Spellbreaker Blades, a Toy Catapult. That's kind of cool. They should include that. Warden's Moon Sword. That's cool. Anti-Magic Potion, Clarity Potion. Those are from Warcraft 3, some of them. Divinity, Greater, Lesser Clarities. Replenishment. Yeah, that's from what? So they're adding more of the Warcraft 3 potions they didn't add before. Lesser and Greater Replenishment. And now the Penryn have Bruise, Bravery Glue. Let's see if any of them we recognize. Chose, Steadying Cider, Drunken Master Secret Tonic, Fiery Belly Ale, maybe. Alden's Fighting Lager, Wounded Warriors Whiskey. Rings, earrings of technological prowess, jade ring of Bethtalia, who is a high elf. Lion's ring of the Acolyte. I feel like the Lion's ring, at least Warcraft 3. Ring of the Mind. Spider ring, that's Warcraft 3. Rodstaff wand. Oh, back in the day when that was a category. That's old school Dungeons and Dragons. Mind staff. I think that was Warcraft 3, and you could use it to control something. Maybe that was the one I used to control the summoned. Rod of Necromancy, yeah. Scepter of Healing, Staff of... Those are all Wand of Wind. What does that do? I think those are all from Warcraft 3. Scrolls, Arcane Scroll of the High Guardian. I don't know. What does it do? Oh, defense. Replenishment Scroll, Greater or Lesser. Regeneration, Speed. Wondrous items. Illyria's Flute of Accuracy. Look, we're talking about Illyria. I love that. Yeah, why would we not tap on Warcraft heroes before? But I didn't know she had a little flute. Okay. Amulet of Recall, Spell Shield, Amulet of the Wind. Ancient Figure of Insight, Ankh of Resurrection, Banner of the Angry Boar, Banner of the Black Wolf, Banner of the Deadly Blaze, Bloodfeather's Heart. That's something that you pick up in Warcraft 3. Book of the Dead, Boots of Quell the Lost. I think almost all these are Warcraft 3. Boots of Speed, Brooch of the Crypt Lord, Cap of Raiden. That's cool. I don't know if that's in the game, but that's pretty cool. Celestial Orb of Souls, Circlet of Nobility, yes. Cloak of Flames, Cloak of Shadows. Actually, some of those we already had. Crown of Kings, Crown of the Dreadlord. Diamond of Summoning. I don't know. Drekthar Spellbook. Drekthar is that evil dude. Read some story about him recently. Druid's Pouch, Enchanted Vial of Bethtalia, her again. We'll have to read and see if we ever read about Bethtalia or find her in the game. Look, a figurine Wondrous Power, like Dritz Duerden, where you have Gwynwivar. You can get a Drake Egg one, a Demonic one, weird. Frost Shard, an Inferno Stone. Actually, I don't know if that's a... I thought they were used for summoning. Yeah, it is. Stone Token. That is in the game. Firehand Gauntlets, Gargoyle Robe. I don't know if that one is in the game. Gauntlets of Ogre Strength, Gloves of Haste, Gloves of Spell Mastery. Grimoire of Souls. Yeah, so this is all magic items. Looks like this is going to probably be a big chunk of the rest of the book. Healing Wards, Healthstone, Helm of Battle Thirst, Helm of Valor, Hood of Cunning. Horn of the Clouds. Ivory Tower. Django of Endurance. Unchained. Khadgar's Gem of Health. I found that one. I had that. Khadgar's Pipe of Insight. Legion Doomhorn. Lightning Cloak. Mana Stone. Mask of Death. Mask of the Loa. Medallion of Courage. Nevil's Amazing Multi-Use Grenade. That's cool. I don't know if that's in the game. Nevil. Who is Nevil? Just a legendary goblin inventor. We'll have to look out for his name too. Nevil's Incredible Flying Gyro Parasol. Nevil's Spectacular Voice-Activated Bomb. Periaptive Vitality, Ruined Bracers, Scourge Bone Chimes, Shimmerglaze Roast. That's the thing you can eat when you get the Pandaren hero. Spider Silk Brooch, Spiked Fell Collar, Talisman of Evasion, Greater, Talisman of Retraining. What the heck would you do with that? You can read it. You lose your feats. Boring. Warden Cloak. And you can relearn them. Warsong Battle Drums. And then we have some actual artifacts. The Horn of Cenarius. Has multiple powers. The Orbs. Oh man, those were so OP when you found them. There's multiple. Oh, those are the ones that you use to gain Orb of Fire, Orb of Frost to change a weapon attack type. Shadow Orb, that's the one that was OP, where you get the multiple fragments. That's cool. The Campaign Seed, an epic quest to reconstruct the Shadow Ward. Yeah, that was the seed. The final shard could be a 30-second. They're saying this could be a campaign, 30-second level. You don't go that high anymore. That's pretty cool though. Shield. It says when you get the final fragment, you can summon shadows, extra armor class. You regenerate your missing body parts. You become incorporeal on command. You touch attacks and drain strength with them. Okay, Shield of the Death Lord. A soul gem. That's from the story. All right, we got another flavor text. We got probably one or two chapters to go. Sunstorm lay on the ridge, looking down at the horde encampment in the valley below. In the dim pre-dawn light, he counted at least 60 orcs and a trio of raider wolves sleeping near the dying embers of a campfire. The orcs had apparently assigned only 2 grunts to the duty, and one of them was asleep. He would have guarded the camp with at least 2 shifts of 3 men. The place was easy pickings. With 200 battle-hardened Alliance soldiers less than a mile away, Sunstorm knew the fight could be over within minutes. Instead, he would follow his orders. The Alliance Assembly wanted intelligence, and the Tinkers had promised that they could get it. To Sunstorm's left, Nuji Koto's breath looked at him expectantly. "We're ready to go," he whispered. Sunstorm nodded. The dwarf pulled a strange crossbow from his belt. Pointing it toward the slate-colored slide, Nuji pulled the trigger. The bolt burst into flame as it left the weapon and carved a blazing slash across the sky. So Nuji is a dwarf. "First, they'll take out the guard," Nuji said. A man arose from behind a bush and rolled a grenade between the guard's feet. A quiet chuff tossed powder at the guard, who twitched and froze in mid-cry. "Total paralysis," said the dwarf. "The dust is related to the same toxin Zakar used for his wand. Believe it or not, you have to milk a spider too." "The wolves," said Sunstorm. "They're awake." One was on its feet already, looking toward the fallen guard. "Wait for it," Nuji replied as all 3 wolves padded across the camp. "Closer." Sunstorm gritted his teeth as the lead wolf sniffed at the guard. "Now," hissed Nuji, just as a pair of elves stepped onto the road. When the wolves bayed and charged, the first elf launched a net that wrapped around the beast. The second pulled a rope that activated a steam engine hidden in the woods, dragging both net and howling woods across the road and up into a tree. "That woke him up," said Nuji. "Time to bring out everyone." As orcs leapt to their feet and snatched up weapons, the dwarf pulled at a ring hanging by his ear, and the steam whistle mounted on his helmet let out a piercing shrill. "Much better," grumbled Sunstorm. Horde archers loosed arrows in their direction as their commanders circled his troops in a defensive formation. When a half-dozen steam warriors stepped out of the woods, the archers switched targets, following the lead of the headhunters hurling spears at the Tinker warriors. With the spears and arrows bouncing off their thick armor, the saws mounted on the arms of the steam warriors roared into life. Tossing clouds of wood chips behind them, the steam warriors toppled trees and pushed the orcs toward the center of the camp. 6 against 60, said Sunstorm. "You really think those are good odds? They can't win this fight on their own. Let me send in the rest of the unit before your men are slaughtered." "Steam warriors aren't fighting the orcs," said Nuji. "They're driving them. Here come the dirt-worm crews with the big finish." A low rumbling shook the valley as the ground beneath the horde troops shuddered and collapsed. Cursing, the orcs and trolls tumbled into a 15-foot deep hole now beneath them. A moment later, a pair of gnomish helicopters crested the far rise, dragging a cable mesh net that dropped over the mouth of the hole. From the surrounding bushes, Tinkers leapt forward and began spiking the net in place. Nuji let out a pair of blasts on his steam whistle, and the Tinkers in the valley below joined him in a victory cheer. "I heard the assembly wasn't too happy when your men killed all the orcs in the last raid. I wonder how much information they'll be able to get out of 60 prisoners," he said, grinning. Okay, so 2 things. 1, I think we're setting up for our technology chapter. 2, if nothing else comes out of this weird Warcraft excursion that we're taking, wouldn't it be cool in this world where you're getting these stories and teams of mixed alliance and horde? The Temple of Boom. I feel like that sounds familiar. I like these steam warriors. All right, so they're talking about how to mix fantasy and technology, how to use movement, maneuverability, malfunctions. It's all just rules for what happens to tech. How to build things together, extra masterwork devices, favored materials based on probably races, and yeah, that's what it's based on. A list of technological devices, new adventuring gear, adaptive shackles. We're just going to skim through auto stilts, anything that seems familiar or cool. A blade barrel, clockwork oxen, a bright eye helm, collapsible bridge. Some of these may or may not. We might actually see dragon gun, ear helm. They have goblin ear-shaped dishes on their sides that can hear far away. Goblin army boots, goblin lockpick, inflatable soldier. I want to see some of this in World of Warcraft. A portable kitchen, a pocket noisemaker, a sapper's shield, sawtooth ring. I like the pictures that we have. Look at that. Sea helm, underwater breathing helmet. I think that's cool. Why not have these as tools or engineering devices? There's tons they can mine. Come back to this. Warcraft devs, come back to this book, please. Sharpening sheath, skate boots, steam saw, the tinker's belt, tinker's arms, a sun buckle, evaluator, assesses the value of gemstones, trap thumper, a wand harness. It's just some of this is stupid. Special items and substances, a dirt worm. That's a machine that you ride in. Memory scrubber. Look, there's the dirt worm. They should bring that into play. Come on, you've got the dark iron dwarves, those things. Bring dirt worms in there too. That's cool. A noble's swordsman. It's a room-sized apparatus. It says they wanted to have rooms to settle swords fight. Oh, it's almost like a Rock'em Sock'em Robot, like life-sized. It's funny. Phlogiston, I feel like that material is something that did make its way. A portable head. It's like a computer. Okay. Vehicles. Destroyers, that's actually from the game. Flying machine. Foot cart, no. Gnomish helicopters, submarines. These are from all the games. The Shredders, the Zeppelins. Iron Fish, no. Meat Wagon, love it. But they're making rules and stats for that. Phlogistic unicycle, okay. Now we're getting off the track here. Rainmaker, scout balloon, siege engine, siege wagon, steam horse, steam warrior armor, steam launch, and some weapons. Alchemical grenade, blast arrows, a demon dirk. It's a lazy tinker. It's a self-oiling dagger. This is self-oiling. Why not be able to? It's a plus 15 to escape artist checks. Very niche. Dwarven reciprocator. That's a type of gun. Rifle. Fire starter. Probably like a flamethrower. Fire arrows. Flash pod. Oh, like a flashbang grenade. Blue mines. That's from Dungeons and Dragons now, actually. Blue rifle. Gnomish rocket. Grease mine. That's actually similar to the oil tar trap. That's kind of. Musk bomb. Ugh. Like an axe body spray. Lightning neck. Iron jaw. That's awkward snoutist. You wrap around your head. And it lets you bite. That's extremely harder. Net launcher. A sword belt. Looks like a perfectly normal long sword. And you fasten it around your waist. Something that looks like it's a slide. It lets you conceal your sword better. Whatever. Zecker devices. These are, I guess, Zeker was not a wizard. He is like a legendary tinker, and these are his legendary devices. Zeker's cloak, Zeker's fire staff. So these are the things that he used to make people think he was a wizard. Zeker's wand. All right, now we're on to the appendices, and we're just about done. Constructs here, no flavor text. Black Iron Golem, stop me if you've seen him. Harvest Golem, yes. So this is like a mini Monstrous Compendium. Junk Golem, I don't know. I don't remember that. Steam Golem, yes. Stonekeeper, yes. So Watchers, yes. There's that legal information. All right, that was a long one, but I wanted to just sometimes I'll break them down, but this time I was like, I just want to bust this one out one big long episode. So most of you probably didn't make it this far, but anyone that just happened to leave this on play and just hear me ramble for like an hour, hey, guess what? You're awesome. I appreciate you. You're a real one. As crazy and odd and dumb and silly as some of this stuff is, and it's pointless and maybe feels irrelevant at times, I love doing it, and I really appreciate anyone that takes the time to watch and listen. This is a great hobby. Really happy that I'm almost going on a year now. We're a couple weeks away from our year anniversary, and we're probably about that far away from starting World of Warcraft. But it's been quite a journey, and hey, hopefully you enjoyed this episode of Lore Warcraft, because now it's in the pipe. 5x5.